I, 21 at the time, was desperate for a job. After working at a pool for 6 summers, I decided not to come back out of pride because the pool's board of directors ousted the management team I loved and grew up with. I also wanted more than $9 an hour. This was summer 2015. So that brought me to Craigslist, and I found a job close to home as a prep cook in a kitchen. It was $12 an hour. I was a junior in college. I emailed the contact and met up with a contact at the local Dunkin' Donuts. We'll call him Ted. Ted was a food service manager. We hit it off professionally instantly, and he offered me the job on the spot. As I was about to leave, he said, "Oh, by the way, the location is in the kitchen of an all-girls sleepaway camp. That's not a problem, is it?" I said I had no problem with it. I just was happy to work anywhere. So the next week I met with Ted and the head chef there. We do a walkthrough of all my duties and toured the kitchen and walk-in facilities as well as the general camp area. It was in the middle of the woods on a lake. Typical northeastern summer camp with log cabins and buildings. While I was in the kitchen talking to Chef and Ted, the director of the camp, came in. She was in her 70s, short gray hair. She reluctantly introduced herself. She seemed disappointed to see me for some reason. I am a friendly guy and really don't have any problems with anyone. But I have to say this was one of the worst first impressions I ever had. I could physically feel her dislike toward me or the choice that the food service company had made choosing me for this job. Later that day, Ted pulled me aside and instructed me, I am not to talk to any of the girls and I am not to even look at them. I guess camp director had a word with them about me. Saturday morning comes and it's my first day. Only the camp counselors and counselors in training, who were also college-aged like me. I cut up vegetables for hours, unloaded the food tractor trailer that got to this somewhat remote location. It was remote enough not to have cell service. I worked 7-5 under the instruction of Chef. I actually learned a lot about culinary arts in this short time. Chef and I became like master and student. He was a chef for 40 years and I liked him a lot. He always showed me what to do and how to do it correctly. I actually really liked my job. I did good and the girls told Chef they loved our food. I just nodded along doing as I was told. It was hard for me not to acknowledge anything with these girls just from a social interaction standpoint. Why was Chef, who was literally in his 60s, be allowed to have appropriate full conversations with these college girls? But I wasn't? If anything, I thought that was more weird. I felt excluded, but nonetheless I just kept my head down and did the job best I could. One of the duties of the counselors and campers was the dishes. On Thursday evening, I was cleaning my meat slicer. Some girls had a speaker on in the kitchen and their song choice was Get Low by Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. The opening comes on and I just blurted out, "Yo, this was my jam in 2003, and I realized I had acknowledged the girls. These were the only words I said to them in the whole 5 days, and it wasn't even direct. They laughed and smiled. They didn't say anything, and it almost felt like they were told not to talk to me either. I had caught some girls looking at me over the week through the crusty screen window from the kitchen and made short eye contact. But I looked down quickly after noticing them looking at me. Just kind of reacted to their eyes I could feel on me. Now it's Friday morning. It's July 4th weekend. I finally was getting off Saturday after I had worked 50 hours in 5 days. I arrived at the camp and I saw Ted sitting out front. He was not on location any other day, so him being there was a surprise. He looked a little distraught. I get out of my car and he quickly approaches me. He says my name and says, "Let's take a walk." He sits me down on a bench. "Man, I'm sorry, but the camp's board of directors heard that an attractive college-aged male was working in the kitchen and they decided they didn't want someone like me working here. Chef and I fought for you being a good kid and good worker and following the instructions. But in the end, it just isn't up to us. We have an at-will agreement with the camp." Wow. And just like that, I'm unemployed. I said goodbye to Chef. A minivan pulls up with my replacement, a woman in her 40s. I just looked at her, nodded, and got in my car and left. I was absolutely sick. I'm out of a job because of who I am and no other reason. I wanted to cry, spending all of June looking for a job, finally getting one, and then it's all gone in 5 days. At the same time, though, as someone who was fat and lost a lot of weight and had pretty low self-esteem growing up about my looks, I was kind of flattered. I'll be honest, my confidence as a bachelor grew significantly after this event. I went home and packed a bag, and I decided I would surprise my family down the Jersey Shore where they were at our family friend's large seaside second home. I had been invited, but I declined because of work obligations. After all, Saturday was my only day off. They were on the beach lounging. It had taken nearly 4 hours to get down there because of scores of holiday weekend traffic. It normally takes two. I had been through a lot that day, and it almost felt like that final scene in The Shawshank Redemption on a smaller scale. They notice it's me walking toward them. They were like, "Aren't you supposed to be at work?" I was like, "Funny story, guys," and told them what happened. I ended up going back to the pool. My sister still worked there, and luckily I didn't burn any bridges. They took me back at a slight raise, and I was grateful they did. I had worked there from age 14, 20, so I was back at home. At the time, I wanted to pursue legal action because surely this is discrimination. Just to get a summer's worth of money out of them. It also took like a month to get paid. I talked to lawyers who said I pretty much have no case because I hadn't worked there that long, and one even said he heard of a case in Iowa or something where a girl was fired for being too hot and the court sided with the company. Just probably wasn't worth it. I decided I would just take the L. Looking back now, it was probably the best thing. I put myself in their shoes. If I were running a camp meant to be a feminine retreat, I wouldn't want a muscular, tall, dark, and handsome fraternity president working there. God knows I would have accepted any affection from those counselors if presented the opportunity. I was a bit of a womanizer in those days. I just think I never should have been hired in the first place if my demographic information as a college-age male would be a problem. Now I'm just a fat dad to a little girl. Maybe she'll go to that camp too, LOL.